the hell is this? Nothing. Hi.
Hi, good morning. I noticed that you didn't go out to work. Usually you'll be out of the house.
What the hell, ma'am?
Are you going to work today? Because you would have already leave.
Yeah, I'm going to work today. What's it to you?
Are you running late or something?
Listen, get your cat off my lawn, please.
You're not going to work today? That's what I'm trying to figure
No,
out. Are you going to work, yes or no?
Hey babe, so let me tell you what's been going on with my neighbor's drama, because I can't believe what I just saw. The way that my apartment is set up, I'm on a higher floor, so I have a good view of, people walking past, and also a view of the townhomes. And they build them in blocks of 4, so it's 4 townhomes connected, and it skips over and it's a set of more townhomes. The lady that's on the first block of the townhome, she comes out with her golden doodle. And I've seen this golden doodle ever since they pretty much built them. I think she probably moved in right when they built them. She comes out, and each townhome has a nice chunk of land in the front yard and in the backyard. They're really nice. So she comes out, and then she walks the dog down the sidewalk. Now, she has multiple neighbors, but she skips over her next door neighbor, and then it's a third neighbor. And then that's where her dog just lets it loose right in their yard, right there. And then they just keep walking, and then when they come back, I don't know what's going on with the dog's stomach, he does it again in the yard. Just does his business, and they just keep it going. Now, I've seen it happen multiple times, like when I'm on walks, when I'm driving, like, I've seen it. And in my mind, I'm like, why do people do that? If you have a dog, clean up after your damn dog. And then you have a yard of your own. Why would you let your dog walk past your green grass and go down to somebody else's grass and take care of his business and don't even attempt to pick it up? I've never seen this lady ever pick up after this dog. And I've been seeing her do this for a long time, right? As I'm walking up to my front office to check my mail, I have to walk past, all these townhomes. And as I'm walking past the townhome of the lady whose yard's getting the crap put in, she comes out nice as she can be. Nice lady, sweet. Excuse me, sir, would you happen to know who owns the big brown golden doodle that walks past here? I immediately point down at the end. I'm like, it's your neighbor. Not your next door neighbor, but your neighbor over one. She's like, oh, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Sure. I keep going. And now when I get up to the front office, I'm talking with the leasing girls for about 15, 20 minutes. So by the time that I come back, I could not believe what I was seeing, babe. That same little sweet lady had on gloves, a large bag of dog crap. And if I were to guess, I feel like she's been collecting this dog crap in her yard from that lady's dog that's been down there. She's just been trying to figure out whose dog it is. Babe, she was down there with big piles of it and just chucking it in the lady's yard, at her door, at her windows, and it was splatting like grenade, just splatting all over this lady's house, on her door. Babe, the lady had a Tesla, and it was parked in the front of the yard. Babe, she started smearing the dog crap all on the Tesla, turning the whole side of the Tesla brown, smearing it on the Tesla. And when it was all said and done, smeared it on the lady's sidewalk where she walks, smeared it on there. And when it was all said and done, the bag that the dog crap was in, she flips it inside out. And guess what she does with it? Shoves it in the lady's mailbox. Shoves it in the lady's mailbox. I'm sitting there as I'm walking past like, oh my God. And this lady, baby, I'm telling you, calm, collected. She didn't look mad. She was just doing her thing like it was normal. I could not believe it. I'm just sitting there walking past like,
okay, I need a name for a millennial Karen. So in my neighborhood, we have trash pickup. 5 days a week, door side, it's amazing. And the official rule is that your trash can needs to be inside your house by 9 a.m. the next morning. And technically you can get a $25 fine if it's left out past that. But the leasing office doesn't really care. To my knowledge, no one's gotten in trouble for it. Not a big deal. But I have this neighbor. She lives across the street from me and looks to be in like her early 30s. And at least 3 to 4 days a week, she will do a full lap around the neighborhood, stop at the houses that still have their trash cans out, and take a picture of them, and then turn them into the leasing office. That's quite an assumption, you say. How do you know that's what she's doing? Because I was one of the people she tried to get in trouble. A couple days ago, I get a call from the leasing office. Hey, one of your neighbors is complaining that you've had your trash can out. Can you please bring it in? Lady was super nice on the other end of the phone, not a big deal. And I didn't get fined. But now I'm wondering how this person has so much free time that at least 3 to 4 days a week, she can do an entire rotation around the neighborhood just to actively try and get her neighbors in trouble. That is so weird to me. Like, that's Karen behavior if I've ever seen it.
I just got in my yearly dose of this morning, and it's only 8 a.m. Our upstairs neighbors were on one this morning. Not this morning, actually, all night. If you can't tell, I got 3 hours of sleep. One person in their house decided to rearrange their whole room. They were banging from like 8 o'clock at night until 2 a.m. when I was finally able to fall asleep. Got woke up again around 3, but went right back to sleep. And then got woke up again at 4:45 to screaming because everyone else in the house also got woken up by their loud ass banging and were wondering what they were doing. So after they got done screaming at each other, they quit for like 30 minutes maybe. And then they started banging again, and they continued banging until fucking 7 a.m. when I had to get up. So I had to get up and be a and I'm not happy about it. And I know some people are gonna say, well, why didn't you get up and bang at like 5 a.m. or 2 a.m. even so they'd shut up and you could just sleep? These are the same people I'm talking about in my They Stole a Car story time a few videos back. So check it out if you haven't seen that. I just didn't feel comfortable doing that in the middle of the night when I wanted to go back to sleep because they're us. Now that we got that out of the way, you're an upstairs neighbor, specifically my upstairs neighbor, learn to shuffle fucking feet. And if you're my upstairs neighbor, have a shitty day. The rest of you, have a great day.
Get ready with me while I tell you a story about my neighbour that made me move out. In my most recent apartment before I moved to London, I was actually living by myself in Rose Bay, which is in Sydney. Really nice place in Sydney. Like, I've never really had issues with neighbours before. Actually, no, I have. One shot my cat. He shot it with... He did, yeah. But it was like one of those pellet guns. And by the way, my cat survived. But anyway, that's not the story I'm going to tell you today about my old neighbour. Anyway, I lived on the second floor and there was no lift. So to get to my apartment, I would always walk past this door. And let me tell you, this door was stank. Oh. Is that me? Am I a bitch? I mean like a mixture of dead body, dead corpse, and maybe a bit of shit. Not that I smelt a damn person, but it was, oh, I could imagine. So every day I walk past, hold my nose, run. Just gotten back from Bali on a trip with my boyfriend, and he had just moved to London before me. So we spent a few weeks in Bali together, and then he'd gone to London. I'm just saying this for context. I just couldn't get anyone to like yell at him and like tell him no. I have a few suitcases, as you do, girls. I carried my carry-on upstairs. I'm walking downstairs and I notice the door's a little bit like open, like that much, but like I don't really look in and it's dark inside. So I'm just like, forget about it. I'm not really like concentrating. Go down, I'm like, you know, like taking a breather, you know? Exhausted, you know, just catching a breath. Anyway, so as I'm catching my breath down there, I look back up at the door and, oh, this is when it gets scary. So look away if you're scared. I look up and I realize that someone's staring at me. Like this. Like that. And I'm like, oh! And I'm like, hi. No reply. Hi. And then this like feeling of my body just like takes over and I'm like petrified at this point. And I'm like, oh my God, I just feel sick, like really weird, because I just see this like body staring at me in the darkness, like in this little like gap. And I'm like, hi, I can see you. Hi, how are you? Come inside. Come. When I tell you reenacting that gave me shivers. I've got chills. I am still petrified. Oh, babe, stop. I said stop looking at me. He was so scary looking. He looked like a haunted Santa. First part of this video, I said that he made me move out. I was already going to move to London, but he made it a lot harder for me. And I literally wouldn't sleep there alone. Like, I made my mum stay there with me. I would stay at my friends. Like, I would literally have random people in the street and I'd be like, can you watch me run up the stairs? Like, my neighbor, I made friends with my neighbor. He agreed. Like, he was like, yeah, my ex-girlfriend used to come over and he used to just stare her down and like try and talk to her. I was like, pedophile, he's a pedophile. And I reckon there was dead bodies in there. So if something comes out about a murder in Rose Bay, don't be shocked. I've warned you. I called the police, I didn't care. And I didn't really talk for the rest of it. I just finished my makeup and this was my outfit. Scared girls unite. I'm a little princess.
My upstairs neighbor wakes me up early every morning making all type of noise.
What's up, beautiful people? You don't know, it's your favorite island girl, Jody here from the 876. As per usual, guys, rock on come in, because you know today we're talking about a topic that I know that you guys can relate to and you all love. We're talking once more about nightmare neighbors. Yes, guys, we're talking about those neighbors who make your life a little bit more exciting in all the wrong ways. From endless noise to just random drama, we'll watch some of these craziest TikTok stories that has some nightmare horror stories. If you're ready to cringe, laugh, or maybe feel a little grateful for your own neighbors, or not, you should definitely stick around. Before we get into all of this madness of today's video, guys, please, I'm asking you to just like this video for your girl. It's an easy and free way to, of course, support my channel. And of course, if you're new, please consider subscribing to become a part of the Islanders family. With all the housekeeping matters out of the way, guys, let's dive into today's story and just see how wild things can really get. Let's take a look.
I just had to call the cops for the first time in my entire life. I'm a little rattled. So last night there was this lady just belligerent, screaming in the parking lot. Like, she got into some sort of altercation with these two girls that I guess live in her building. Like, they're like younger girls. She has to be like 50 something, okay? And she's screaming all this crazy racist stuff, just in general calling them every book in the name. It was terrible. And the cops get there and it's a whole thing. And basically she was screaming at the cops because they wouldn't arrest the girls and they're like, you're the belligerent one here. Anyway, I just heard her screaming in the parking lot again. And I look out. This time it's like a 14-year-old boy she's yelling at, chasing after. He's clearly trying to get away from her. He is screaming that she assaulted his father, all this stuff, okay? I took a short video of that, literally just to show my property manager. And then a little bit later, I hear her yelling out there again. This time, no one else is out there. And she's keying someone's car. And she's like, how about this? How about this? Yeah, I'm going to do my name. She literally said that. She keyed the car with her own name. And I'm like, oh my God, I was gonna just leave a note and say, I have the video of the person who keyed your car with my phone number, but I was terrified that she would see it first and either take it off or use it to target me, and she would have my phone number at that point. So she keys the car, the back, the front, the sides, the other side, and then gets in her own car, peels out of the parking lot so fast, so dangerous, and she's definitely drunk. So the cops get here and they are very familiar with her. Apparently last night was not like the first time they've had an issue with her. Get ready for this plot twist. You're not even ready. It was her own car. The car is registered to her. So the working theory is the boyfriend that she beat up and that little kid ran away from, not little kid, he was like 14, but she went out, keyed the car that I guess she bought for him and gave herself thousands of dollars worth of damage on a car that she owns. And they're like, we can't press charges for keying her own car. Like, she could do that if she wants, I guess. But they're like, we're going to document it just because there's so many other things going on with her. But like, oh my God. Have you ever gotten so mad you key your own car? Last night I had to call the cops for the first time in my entire life. And then 4 hours later, I had to call the cops for the second time in my entire life. Now, this story is insane no matter what. But if you want the full context, the first cop call is like 2 videos back. Okay, so the first time I called was around 6 o'clock at night. They came, they left, whatever. So then it's like 11 o'clock at night, I want to say, last night, and I'm starting to hear weird stuff in the parking lot again. And I look out the window because I'm like, oh my God, what is she doing now? And she's in the very back corner. It's like a fence. She's in the corner of the fence, and there's like a couple cars parked right there. And she's carrying on, she's yelling stuff, and I'm hearing a weird noise that I cannot place. So I'm keeping an eye on it. I'm seeing her flashlight flash all around, and then I realize she is spray painting a white Ford F-150. Just like when she keyed the car, the front, the back, the sides, she's cracking up as she's doing this. And now I'm like, oh my God, great, I have to call the cops again, because I understand that, like, they couldn't do anything with the first time because it was her car that she keyed. And I'm like, okay, maybe she has 2 cars in the parking lot. Surely she doesn't have 3. By the time the cops get here, she's working on a second car. She finished up her artwork on the Ford F-150, moves over to another one. She moves on from the Ford F-150, and she's working on the white car. I don't know what kind of car it is. Working on the white car, and this is when the cops come. The cops got there in like 0.5 seconds this time, and they're just like, what are you doing? And same situation is, she's like, they're my cars. They're registered to me. I can do what I want with my car. And they're like, okay. They check it, and there are 2 more of her cars. So, also, side note, this means she has 4 cars in the parking lot. No wonder there's no parking, ever. She's hogging up all the parking spots. So in one night, she vandalized 3 cars, all registered to her, all that she's paying for, because she's mad at her boyfriend, who I guess drives these cars. I don't know. I was absolutely terrified, but I worked up the courage to walk up to the cars this morning and get a video. Let me show you. But basically, I can't say or type any of what is written on this car, or they will kick me off the app. And I very much like being on this app. You would think a 50-something-year-old woman would be a little bit more creative than, let's say, a middle schooler. But no, that looks like an angry middle schooler. Yeah, so that's why I didn't say what was written on the car. But yeah, tag yourself. Me personally, I love...
So my neighbor has complained to the building supervisor that apparently I shower at 7 a.m. and 11 p.m. every single day. Which I don't do. I don't shower that often. I'm never even awake at 7 a.m. Like, I don't know. And now today they're like, oh, you need to let a plumber into your apartment this afternoon because it's an emergency. It's not an emergency. They came in yesterday too and like started filling up my bathtub and running the shower at the same time. And they're like, oh yeah, you can hear it on the other side. I'm like, okay, I have never taken a bath in this apartment. I've lived here 3 years. So has she. Why is this suddenly a problem? Apparently my apartment is really loud. I've never heard any other apartments in this building. Maybe once I heard the one above me because someone dropped what I assume was an anvil. It was so loud. So I don't know what this woman is hearing. Even when I like watch movies, I watch them on my laptop and I listen to it with headphones in because I can't hear it well enough. The only noise I make is like answering calls at work and making TikToks, which I don't think my voice sounds like a shower, although it's very soothing. Anyway, I'm very confused and I'm very annoyed, and no one is like mean or rude, so I can't really be like furious at someone in particular. I'm just so confused, and I just wish to know peace. Thank
So, where your sandals?
They're inside.
I want to see it.
You want to see them?
Maybe
In a minute?
maybe right now. Man,
Okay, so story time as to why my neighbours put up their own fence. But before I get into it, I'm so confused as to why my last video triggered so many people. I'm not a neighbour from hell. I was just making light of a situation that's happened to me. But yeah, anyway, I'm going to try and keep this into one part because I hate when things are dragged out. So when I bought my house, I did a bit of like body work before I moved in, so like plastering, electrics, etc. And I had a skip. So I would go to the house every day, check what had been done, etc., etc. I had introduced myself to the neighbours, like either side and across the road. And I came back and there was a window in my skip. Now I wasn't getting the windows done, so obviously it wasn't mine. I asked my builder and he said the neighbours asked if they can put some soot in the skip. And I was a bit like, that's a bit strange because nobody asked me anything. So I went knocking on the door and I was like, oh, excuse me, did you put your window in my skip? For context, you have to pay for your skip. So if I'm forking out money to pay for a skip to put my rubbish in and my building work, there's no space for anybody else's stuff. But had anyone asked me, I would have been like, yeah, because I would have just wanted to be friendly with everybody. And my neighbour was like, oh, yeah, we asked the builder. So it's also very rude knowing that I own the house. So if it belongs to me, you should ask me, which they didn't. I saw later on that they took the window out and I was just like, whatever. Now, anytime I do anything in my house, drilling, I'd replace one of the fences on that side, anything going on, I let them know because I think that's just general courtesy, even if it doesn't directly affect them. But since window in the skip gate, they were a bit frosty, but they had a baby. I gave them a card, like I gave Christmas cards out. I had a baby, never got anything, but whatever. So I just tried to keep those lines of communication open. So also, I have a pet peeve of people walking across your drive, even if you're driving, to like reverse in the road and not on someone's drive. I just think it's completely unnecessary. But my neighbours started walking across my drive all the because they park their two cars really close to the door, I'm guessing. And I just thought it was a bit cheeky, but I didn't say anything. Then I got the curb dropped. I think if you saw my last video, the council said it has to go edge to edge of previous drops because it doesn't meet their minimum requirement or something. So if anything, it benefits my neighbour because now their drive is more dropped than it was before. So one day I'm at home and this big lorry pulls up, parks across my drop, and like the ring doorbell keeps coming up a notification, like someone keeps coming to the door. So I opened the door and I was like, excuse me, are you coming for me? He's like, no, I'm doing work next door. So I have a shared access between myself and my neighbour. So I was a bit confused as to why then they were walking across the drive. So I was like, oh, if you're working there, shouldn't you be walking over there? And he was a bit huffing and puffing. And then I spoke to the other guy and I was like, not being funny, but my house and my area is not attached to anything that you've got going on. So if you could, work or walk where you're working. And I was like, furthermore, you've blocked me in, so I can't leave my house. Obviously, I have a baby, I have places to go. And then they just started ignoring me. So I'm like, excuse me, like, I need to leave. You also, like, coming over here, like, it's not necessary. The guy just started effing and blinding, swearing, shouting. I was like, all right, I guess we're having an argument then. Bearing in mind, this whole time I've been so sick. So for me to even speak was like, oh my God, drawing blood out of a stone. But it got very heated and I was just thinking, I'm a woman, you're two men, what is this? So I knocked on my neighbour's door and I was like, excuse me, your builders are blocking me in, you guys are walking up across my drive, you've got all this scaffolding, I wasn't even aware anything was going on. And she's like, no, you did that work out of there, you affected my drive, you altered my drive. And I'm thinking, what is she talking about? Realising that she's talking about the drop curb, which if you've got an issue with it, it's the council that you need to call. And no, as everyone would know, when the council come to do things, I wasn't given a date. So she started shouting, then slammed the door in my face. So I was thinking, wouldn't you could see there's an altercation here. You've hired these people. You obviously haven't told me anything that's happening in an access that's for both of us. Common courtesy would be to say something. bearing in mind, I'm there now with my baby, and I'm thinking, "Ugh, this is just ridiculous." My other neighbour comes asking me if I'm okay because it was very aggressive. I know everyone thinks angry black women, but I was literally defending myself. Someone also called the police. The police came to speak to me, and that's something else.
But I don't know if it's them not thinking that I don't have anybody or I can't have anybody to defend me. But whilst all this happened, when they all shut, my mum came from her house and she was not having it. She was like, who's in trying to intimidate my daughter? Who's being rude to my daughter? Da, 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 da. And it was funny because the builders stopped talking. And it's like, if you come, why is it that you have to come with this sort of attitude and presence for someone to respect you? Because at the end of the day, this is my home. I pay my bills, my drive. So what is the issue here? So when I put up this scaffolding, I was like, rah, you guys are doing some big work and nobody said anything to me. And I used my side access. So I said to the guy, do I still have access here? He's like, yeah, love, of course you do, obviously. And I'm thinking, okay, when I do go and look, the scaffolding is doing some cross cushy stuff. And I'm thinking that I'm going to have to do an obstacle course to get through here. And it's like, this isn't a little bit of something that you've got going on that you didn't say. Oh, gosh. That evening, my neighbour's husband comes and he's like, oh, I heard you had an altercation with my missus, blah, blah, blah. And I'm thinking, why are you coming to me as a man? Like, why are you getting involved in this? If she can't hold her own, then she can't hold her own. You don't need to now come and try and intimidate me as a man in my own home, at my own front door. And I was like, to be honest with you, you're doing a serious job which is affecting my access. And you didn't say anything. He's like, oh, well, you know, you dropped the curb and you didn't say anything. I said, no, I didn't. Furthermore, they spoke to you. You didn't speak to me and your builders are rude. So I started parking my car on my my drop curb, sorry. He's like, oh, they're going to start work next week. So they're, sorry, I had to think what happened. Next set of builders come, and the end of the day happens and they've blocked the whole way, even left the can on my window, and I'm like, what is going on here? So I spoke to the guy and I was like, excuse me, how long is this going to be going on for? He was like, oh, for a few days. I was like, well, I don't have access to my side of my house, so you're going to need to move this, because bearing in mind, I'm not aware of this. I can't move and flex. If I need to use for whatever reason, yeah. Also, I saw on the Ring doorbell my neighbour then telling her kids not to cross the line. And it's like, this is how you know when they say kids are innocent and it's the parents that make them a type of way, it's like, now they were saying don't speak to her, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, I say hello to the kids all the time. Like, what is necessary? So after all of that, one day I come and I just see that they've put that little fence out at the bottom and the big fence at the top, at the back. So it's up to them. I find it funny because I was then getting quotes for the back fence because I was like, I don't want to see these people's face anymore. If she wants to argue with me over people that she's paying and hired and can't see how blocking me in my own house, walking across my drive and then blocking my side access is not on you, it's bizarre. But I'm now getting a fence at the front, which is funny because they put their bin outside on the side so they won't be able to access it. We did it, Joe! So if you're new here, you'll know that me and my neighbours unfortunately got into a bit of a disagreement, so I've decided to put a fence up for my driveway. It was already on the list, but I've just bumped it up for the sake of peace. I think it looks so nice though, guys. Let me know what you think in the comments.
Dealing with a nightmare neighbor can definitely turn what should be a comfort of your home into a constant source of stress. So imagine moving into a new place, hoping for peace and a sense of community, only to be met by neighbors who seem to just set on making your lives miserable. It's just crazy. It's through loud noises, just careless overall behavior, or just outright hostility. Bad neighbors can make even the most idyllic home become unlivable. No one should have to deal with having sleepless nights or even disruption of work or relaxation because someone else lacks consideration.
Have you ever had a neighbor that just seemed so bothered by your existence that they just made your life a living hell? Well, we definitely have, and here's our story. Probably going to be 2 parts because it gets crazy. So we had just moved into a duplex house. We were the upper apartment and they were the lower apartment. And we had a toddler and 2 teenagers living with us. So the complaints, they started out small, too much stomping upstairs or running up the stairwell, because to go into our front door, you had to go directly upstairs, which was right beside their living room area. So they could hear everything going on in those stairs. So, you know, we were new and we were trying to be respectful and taking good care and trying not to be too loud. But one morning I was just playing with my son in his room, and all of a sudden there's banging on the floor from underneath us. And I think it was like 7 or 8 in the morning. And we realized that he was complaining about me and my son playing in his room, making too much noise. But the sound was traveling down the air vent into their room, which there's nothing we can do to avoid that. It's just the way the house was built. We ended up getting a puppy, and the noise complaints just got worse. Of course, a new dog, it's gonna be whining sometimes, and it's gonna make noise, and we were in the middle of training her. She was a lab golden retriever. I mean, she still is, she's still around. And she was, you know, having separation anxiety whenever we were gone. But there had been a time when he made a complaint to the police, and we were there the entire time and there was no sound being made. Apparently he had a recording that he showed the police, so he was obviously recording any sound of a dog that he found barking, probably on YouTube, just to show so he can complain about our dog. He didn't get any response from the police really on this. It was just more of a warning to us, and the police are well aware of the amount of complaints that this neighbor makes on other people in the neighborhood, so he's well known by that. We didn't know this at first, but when we started making friends with our neighbors beside us, we started hearing all kinds of crazy stories. So then we started getting flat tires. And at first we just thought nothing much of it. You know, we just ran over a nail in a construction area. Can happen, of course. Then one day he actually came to our door and said, "I think one of your tires is losing air." And it just seemed very convenient that he's telling us about our tire that's losing air when we were starting to get the idea that maybe he was the one doing this to us. Definitely going to have to make a part 2, so go head over to that if you want to hear more. So now we've had multiple flat tires going on and many complaints. So we decided that we were going to get a camera to try and catch whoever was destroying our tires. So this was before all those ring door things were very popular and all over the place. So we just ended up going to a hunting store and grabbing one of those motion sensor cameras. We set it up above the garage door pointing toward our car. So the one day when we did find that our car was vandalized again, we went to check the camera and the pictures had been deleted. Now some of you are going to say you probably shouldn't have had something that was just hanging up there and that you could open and that you could delete the images from. But in order to get this camera, you would need a ladder to get up there to get it. And who else could grab a ladder than the person who has their garage right next to yours and also has a ladder in it? So needless to say, he was number 1 suspect. We were feeling utterly defeated and did not know what to do. We were just going day by day and hoping that this nightmare would end at some point. But it didn't. It just got worse. So this one morning, we were taking my son to daycare, and on our way back from the daycare, we were going down a downhill slope. And it's a pretty big downhill slope. And there is a set of lights at the bottom of this slope that is where all these cars are coming off the highway or going onto the highway. And I am trying to stop because the light is turning red, and I can't. And I end up having to roll through this intersection, and I am scared for my life. So we immediately got on the phone with our mechanic and let them know that we are going to bring the vehicle by and so they can take a look at it. When we get there, we could not have been prepared for what they were going to find. They took out our brake line and showed it to us, and it had so many cuts in it. Like, just snip, 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 snip. Like, oh, we're not sure if this one went all the way through, so we're just going to make another one. Okay, let's do another one. Clearly intentional. There was no way around it. It was not an accident at all. It was intentional cutting of our brakes. We called the police, we called our landlord, they both met us out there, we filed a report, but unfortunately there was no evidence to say that it was definitely this man. I was so upset and scared. What if our son was in that vehicle with us at that time? Like, I'm so thankful that we had already dropped him off, but I could not imagine how it would have been if we were all in that vehicle together and we did get into an accident. Gonna have to make... Okay, part 3 of Nightmare Neighbor. So after we had our brakes cut, which was the worst nightmare we could have ever imagined, we decided we were done. We did not want to put up with this situation anymore, which was probably his intention to just get us to want to move out. So we had told our landlord that we were moving out, and you could tell that he believed us, but there was just not much he could do without any evidence or anything either. So after we had given our notice and were preparing to find a new place to live, one day our landlord came over and said that there's something we'd probably like to hear. So apparently the neighbor downstairs' wife decided that she doesn't want to live with him anymore, so he is going to move out. Now this is only an assumption, but it's a pretty good one. I feel like she found out what was going on and that we were moving out because we were being tormented by him, and she decided that that is just enough for her as well, and she kicked him out, which I am forever thankful for, because we ended up living in that house for multiple years after that, and it was one of our favorite places we ever lived. So he did eventually move out, and all the problems changed. All the sliced tires were gone away. Everything was fine after that. And you know what? That neighbor, she did not complain about us one time. Not once. Then I started making friends with other people in my neighborhood, and I started to find out that he was just as bad to everyone else. He had been harassing pretty much anyone in his near area. I also met somebody who actually was a neighbor in the same sort of situation with him before, and she actually had similar nightmare stories, but she didn't have a car for him to vandalize. But he did, however, put super glue in her lock so she could not get into her own house one time. I wish I could tell you all the other things that she told me, but I just don't remember, and it's been many years and we just don't talk anymore. So, but hope you enjoyed my crazy nightmare story.
Based on the last share, another major issue with nightmare neighbors is the disregard for common spaces. Is a pet peeve for me. Sharing areas like yards, hallway, or even parking spots, people often fall victim to inconsiderate behaviors of these horrible neighbors. The lack of respect for a common area makes it clear that neighbors aren't interested in, that community, but rather than inconvenience and, of course, preferences. Privacy is another important aspect that can be invaded by nightmare neighbors. Some people may think nothing of it. Peering over people's fences, spreading rumors, or even just prying into other people's personal lives. Living close to others naturally requires a level of respect for boundaries, and of course, nightmare neighbors can just ignore these unspoken rules. Nobody not have to tell you, leaving their neighbors feeling uneasy and of course exposed.
I watch way too much true crime for this one. All right, so I was just taking my dog out, and it's dark out there, and he was so scared he wouldn't go to the bathroom, and I'm like, what is going on, buddy? Come on, let's go. And I hear something across the street, and there's like just a big park across the street from me, so there's no houses there, and I could tell somebody's standing there, and I think with the dog, and I'm like, oh, he's probably just like nervous of the dog, whatever. The person just continues to stay there, and I'm like trying to get him away, and he's just like staring across the street, and he was scared, and I'm like, hello, and the person doesn't answer me. They just stay quiet, and I'm like, then I start getting like panicked because I watch way too much true crime. So then I come inside and I tell my daughter, and I take Jack out back, and my daughter goes and looks out the front, and she sees somebody running through the park. And Jack still will not go to the bathroom. We're in the backyard, and he just kept trying to look at the front yard. And I was like, I'm too scared for this. So we came back inside, but it is reminding me of all the creepy stories that I have for you guys from my neighbors that we used to have when we lived on Long Island in our first house. For real, I'm so serious. Be so careful where you buy your house from. We grew up my husband and I, on Long Island, and we had neighbors growing up that were awesome. Like, helped if you needed them, you could together, and just good people, right? When you grow up with that, you don't realize that the whole world is not living like that, and not all neighbors are that way. So we bought our first house, and we were invited to a little gathering by the woman we were buying the house from. She was awesome. She invited the neighbors. And I got like this weird feeling while we were there. And my mom, when we were leaving, my mom said, I think one of them is going to be trouble. And I said, yeah. And we both said, the same one. And how much trouble could she be, right? So we moved, I'm sorry, I'm always clapping. So we moved in, and within a very, very short time, we realized just how bad it was going to be. So within the first week, she came over with a complete plans, like a complete drawing that a landscaper would do in scale of our house and our yard and everything, and what we should do with it, and what we should change, and where we should plant things, and all that stuff, right? So we were like, cuckoo, okay, that's crazy. And we just were like, okay, thank you. And we started getting from there on just so many horrible things. They would walk past our house, and when we had company over, and stand in front of our house and just giving us the middle finger, cursing us out. They had a video camera, because this was back in 2006. They had a video camera, and you could tell when a video camera was going because it had the flashing red light, and they would set it up in their window, and they would have it focused on us, and we could see it every time we walked out the back of our house, went up to against the side of their house, and they had it in their side window. They were recording us. They would shout things over the fence that we only said inside of our house. And the husband would say multiple times, I did some electric in that house. And we were like, okay, so there's like a bug in the house or something. They're listening to us. My husband is an electrician. He searched everywhere. We never did find anything like that. But this was interesting before things really escalated and got really bad. We were... I have such a strong sense of smell. This is an odd thing to add in, but I have such a strong sense of smell. And I had gotten pregnant with my middle one. And my sense of smell was escalated even 10 times. And I would not be able to sleep in my bedroom. I couldn't even go in there. I couldn't use our master bathroom. There was this smell that was making me so sick. And every day I would see in there this little pile of dust. And I'm like, what is this little pile of dirt on the floor? I keep cleaning up every morning, and I'm looking up at the ceiling one day because I thought it was from my husband's boots, thought it was from him at work. And I'm like, don't wear your shoes in that. We didn't wear our shoes in the house. Why is it? I'm like, what is this dirt from? So I see this hole up in my ceiling, and I'm like, what is that? So my husband gets a day off, goes to cut the area of the ceiling, and it was just a mold city. They hadn't put the fan to, the exhaust fan didn't go outside. So for years and years, moisture was going up into the attic. Mold. So my husband actually was trained and suited and has like a face mask for all of that. He got rid of the mold. And while we were at it, we said, this window in here is so freaking weird. It was a basement window up high in the wall. And I'm like, why would somebody put a basement window in a bathroom? and it was up high and it was frosted. You couldn't see out of it. And I'm like, that's just weird. So I'm like, let's put in a real window so we can get more air circulation in here. So my husband is replacing that window, and he's taking out the old one, and he starts going to frame out, take the sheetrock down to frame out for the new window. And he's like, there used to be a regular window here. Why would someone take out a regular window and put in that? Because that thing didn't open. There was no other circulation in that bathroom. So then I'm outside talking to this very nice neighbor we had next door, and she would always come over. My Joey was so little when we moved in there. He was 18 months old, and we'd be out playing. We had the swing set, and the neighbor would come over and chat by the fence. So I'm talking with her, and I'm like, this is the weirdest thing. Rich is replacing the window because we had like this weird basement window up high in the bathroom. He's putting in a regular one, and he sees there used to be a regular one. Do you know why they would take out a regular window? Because we bought the house from the original owners, and they knew them. And she was like, oh, something about somebody. She used to say someone was watching her. And then we were like, okay, so this is not new. This is not new, and this is what they do, because that is the same side of the house that was facing their side that had the video camera going. And it just kept getting worse from there. If you want to hear more, I'll tell more.
So I'm always a little nervous telling this story, and I don't want any backlash from the people, like we got out, but I made way too long of a story with that. What would you do if you moved into a house and the people facing you, behind you, had a video camera recording you? 2006, we didn't have all our smartphones and stuff. It was video cameras. They had it set up in their window, and it was facing us. We then find out why we don't have a regular bathroom window. There's this crazy up high basement window in our bathroom. My husband goes to switch it out. We see that there's already framing for a regular window. We find out from the next door neighbor who knew the original owners that we bought the house from, that she replaced that window, took their window out, and put in an up high basement window that was frosted because somebody was watching her. What would you do?
Unfortunately, addressing these issues can be complicated. Approaching your nightmare neighbor about their behavior can lead to defensive and even more aggressive responses, which only definitely intensifies the whole situation. Without mutual respect and willingness to compromise, peaceful resolution becomes unlikely. In many cases, people try to involve their property managers, their landlords, or even they go as far as including law enforcement. It's not all issue that can be legally enforced, which is just so sad, and it leaves the victim of these nightmare neighbors feeling helpless.
Part 2, you asked for more, here it comes.
So I had told the whole beginning story, and I had a lot of questions about like who we bought the house from, and why originally before we moved in did the people invite everybody, all the neighbors over, including them, to meet me if they knew something weird was going on. So we bought the house from the daughter of the older woman who passed away. The older woman who passed away was the original owner of the house, and she was the one who put in that big basement window up high in the bathroom and took out the regular window. She was the one that said someone was watching her. So it was these creepos watching her too. So way more things happen. We were there for 18 months. We had to move out of safety reasons. And this is the story of how it escalated to that point. So we realized pretty quickly on, as you can see, you can go back to part 1, they're weirdos, right? I would be walking out the door, out my back door, and there would be flashes, cameras. Now remember, this is 2007-ish. And we didn't have smartphones. We had flip phones. We didn't have any instant pictures. We didn't have any, I didn't even go on the internet. So we had regular cameras and video cameras. And they had a video camera set up in their window watching us all the time.
And they would take pictures of me anytime at night I went outside. Flashes would be going in my face. We would, as we would be sitting at dinner, they would be standing in our cul-de-sac just watching us. We lived in the cul-de-sac. Our house was in the cul-de-sac. They were behind us. They basically were on the main road, their house. And they would just stand there, their whole family, and just stare at us. They would give us the finger. They would curse at us. Anytime we had friends over, that's what they would stand in our window. We had a big window in our front living room. Just horrific, right? And then this. One night, I get up and I'll give a little backstory here. My son had severe food allergies and all kinds of health issues going on. I still had to make him formula in the middle of the night. So I would get up. I got up in the middle of the night. My husband had gone to work. It was about 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning. And I see something out of the corner of my eye. And there was windows right past my kitchen table. And beyond those windows was my backyard. And we had a coffee table. We had a picnic table outside, right outside that window. I look over and it's him taking a drag of a cigarette. And as the cigarette lit up, it illuminated his face in the window. I cannot even tell you, like, frozen with fear. I was home alone with my baby. At this point, I was pregnant with my middle one. And I didn't even know what to do because we didn't want to make this guy any more angry or feed into it. Like, I just kept thinking, if we just ignore this, it's going to go out. Like, is that real? Was that real? And I'm just like, went back to my son's room, didn't sleep that night. We literally did not know what to do. We were just young. We never experienced anything like this before. We grew up in normal neighborhoods with normal people. And I was a nanny for 15 years before I had my son. I was always babysitting and at other people's houses and hanging out with their neighbors and doing coffee clutches and play dates with the kids and stuff. This is what I pictured I would have in my first house. Not this craziness. This was like a movie. So this was it getting a little bit worse. And it's already 4 minutes in, but stay tuned for part 3.
Part 3, you asked for more, you asked a lot of questions, and I'm trying to keep up with the messages, but there's a lot of them. So a lot of you asked, like, how did this escalate? We had moved in around Christmas time, and we had seen that video camera sitting there. We had had all kinds of weird things, the window, and it was just a lot of weird things in the beginning. What escalated everything was we felt that we wanted to just not be friends with these people because of all like the little weird things that had happened. We didn't invite them to my son's second birthday party. We had a very big party. We invited some of the neighbors that were in our cul-de-sac that had little kids and grandchildren, and they came, and those neighbors were like, that set them over the edge. And now, like, looking back, like, while things were happening, I was like, should we have just invited them? I don't think so. I don't think so. I feel like if somebody is not someone you want to be friends with, why invite them to your kid's birthday party, and why feel like you have to? Everyone doesn't get invited to everything. So they had an absolute fit. The next morning, so I had my best friend was visiting from upstate New York with her husband, now ex-husband, and her son. She didn't have her second yet, and I had my son, and so it was his second birthday. We didn't have my daughter yet. I was pregnant. We did not have our dog yet. We see him. It was raining the next day. We see him outside, and he's ripping the chain link off of the fence, and I was like, oh my gosh, I wonder if they're getting a new fence, because we had just put in a little white picket fence, and it was short, like a 4-foot white picket fence along the rest of our property. So, you know, no fear of the kids running into the street because it hadn't been fenced in. Along the back of our property, which was their side yard, they had a chain link fence. So he was out there taking down the chain link, snipping it, rolling it up. So Rich goes out, my husband goes out, and he's like, oh, you getting a new fence? He's like, nope. And my husband was like, oh, what are you doing? And he's like, this is coming down. And he's like, why? That makes our yard not a fenced in yard anymore. Your yard not a fenced in yard anymore. And he was like, oh, well, fence is coming down. So he takes it down. He takes down the chain links. He leaves the posts. So my friend and her husband, they go to the store, they go to Home Depot, and they get one of those orange plastic fences that is like temporary when you're doing construction. And they put that up, and the guy was just like, don't let that touch my fence posts. And, you know, they were all, you know, my kids had to sit and watch you have a birthday party and we weren't invited. And we were like, oh my God, these people are just nuts. And it just kept getting worse and worse and worse. Like we were very young. It was our first house. We wanted to live there. This is a huge deal. And we just felt like they're not bothering other people. Like if we just ignore them, it's got to stop. It's got to. And it didn't. So it continued. They were just so weird, taking pictures as I was walking out the back door every time it was dark out and all this stuff. So my daughter was born end of October. Her birthday's next week. So she was born the end of October. I get home from the hospital, my very first morning at the house, 7:30 in the morning, the chainsaw right outside our bedroom window in his yard, just revving the chainsaw. So my husband goes out because he was going and going. He's like, what is going on? So he goes out there and he's like, what are you doing? Lori just got home with the baby. You know, she needs to sleep. And he goes, oh, well, I'm going to be doing a lot of chainsaw stuff out here. And he just kept doing that for a few weeks, like every morning. And he waited until 7:30 because it's not illegal. We checked every time he did something. My brother-in-law is a police officer in New York. So they would say, he knows just how far to go to not get caught. And we didn't have cameras up. We didn't have anything like that. It was 2007. So that happened. So then the next thing I'll give you, my daughter, and so lucky that my husband wasn't home and my dad weren't there, but my mom was there. Nobody was there. I was nursing my newborn baby on my couch, and everyone was asking about, didn't you have blinds? We did. We had bamboo blinds that were throughout the house, and we hadn't replaced them yet. We weren't spending all of this money, but obviously blinds are important. They were bamboo, so you can pretty much see through them, but I would open them up in the morning and get sunshine. And I don't know why he was home this day. It wasn't a weekend. But he was standing on his deck, just staring at me. Like I'm nursing her and I feel somebody watching me and I look and there he is staring at me. So I call my mom, upset. We go to the store and we're looking like, where can I get something that's gonna cover the windows, but like still lets light in, looks pretty. So 2007, they were called, I forget what they were called. They were very light fabric and they were light cream colored, and they covered the whole window. We got them everywhere. So they let the light in, but you could not see through them anymore. But as we were in the windowsill, we had a big, beautiful window. That was the other thing, like big, beautiful windows. You don't want to have to cover them. Like we were living in a fishbowl. So I climbed up on the counter and in the big bay window, beautiful big bay window, and I'm hanging up these new things and my mom's there helping me. And what's he doing? He's out on his deck, grabbing his crotch, making all obscene gestures to us. And that's the day that my mom saw it for the first time. Like her son was like, oh, you're not kidding. This is horrible. Oh my God, he's disgusting. This is horrible. And I was like, yes, this is what I've been telling you. I am living with. We are freaking minding our own business in our own house. And this is what was happening. We did nothing to instigate anything. If anything, we were in the complete wrong for not going back at them and instigating something. And we don't hold back anymore. So I don't even mess with, like, anybody is a little weird, I am done because I do not have time for that.
That's all we have today, guys, in today's neighbor horror story. Honestly, I don't know whether to laugh or to cry at some of these. Let me know in the comment section, as per usual, guys, if you've ever had a nightmare neighbor and what happened. Of course, no judgment here. I promise, we promise, we're just all sharing. Ultimately, dealing with a nightmare neighbor is just a test of your patience, resilience, and even sometimes you even get creative with problem solving because you just might never know. End of the day, everyone deserves a peaceful home, and facing nightmare neighbors, guys, can unfortunately be an obstacle in achieving your basic right, which is just basic right to just live and exist. Guys, if you have enjoyed today's video, please remember to like and subscribe if you haven't already done so. Turn on your post notification so you'll be notified every time I drop a juicy story time and relatable video. And if you want to continue to watch more awesome videos like these, you can go ahead and click the up next video right here on your screen. Thank you again, guys, so much for watching. As per usual, my name is Jody and I aspire to inspire. Until next time, guys, walk good.